One of my mottos is that to experience significant change, you must change significantly.
You just heard Angel Cottrell, ERC Program Manager and CEO of Apollo Consultancy Group, Inc. Miss Angel Cottrell has consulted with and coached entrepreneurs and taught entrepreneurship topics for more than 15 years. Most recently, she joined the Kern High School District as Program Manager of Entrepreneurship Resource Centers. The KHSD ROC and CTEC ERC programs are designed to support youth in developing entrepreneur mindsets and thinking. As CEO of Apollo Consultancy Group, Inc., Angel utilizes 25 years of successful business development, innovative change management initiatives, and strategic leadership experience to support entrepreneurs and leaders who aim to accomplish groundbreaking goals. Angel believes everyone should have the opportunity to experience the greatest version of their grandest vision in life and business. In today's show, we discuss Angel's work in the community, the CTEC building, and the programs. And then later in the show, we talked about Apollo Consulting Group and how she helps business executives break ground on being vulnerable and changing in their business.
Welcome back to the Our 2 Cents podcast, the show where your local professionals sit down with an array of guests to hear their story and impart some wisdom for both business and life-improving skills. This is your place to hear business and community leaders discuss relevant topics that matter to you.
Welcome to the show today. My name is Amanda DiGiacomo. Before we start today's episode, I'd like to encourage all of our listeners to follow us on social media and to listen to past episodes already released on our website. Angel, we are happy to have you, and we're glad that you're joining us today. I can't wait to discuss all of the wonderful topics, but let's start with a little bit of how I've known you. So I've known you for, I don't even know, maybe 10 years or so. She was one of my mentors in college. She worked at CSUB here in Bakersfield, and she just connected. We're both kind of that Spitfire personality, go-getter, gravitated towards each other. She's just been a big part of my life. And since then, I followed her career and she's followed mine, and we've stayed in contact. And I mean, she does everything in this town. I mean, her resume right now, I think it's like 6 pages long, guys, of awards and things that she's done to help our community. I'm excited to have her on today. We were both recently nominated for the Bakersfield Beautiful Award, and she did take the winner for education. And that's a huge, huge accomplishment for her. She works with different school districts, Bakersfield College, CSUB, and then she also does consulting and coaching, as her own business that she does when she's not helping our community. So I just wanted to say I'm excited to have you today, as you being one of my mentors and a huge community leader. That I'm excited that we get to talk about all the cool things that you do here in Bakersfield.
Well, Amanda, I want to thank you so much for having me. And I just want to tell you what an honor it is always, whether it's you and me or you right now or in the community, the fact that you introduce me as a mentor to you. You have no idea how proud that makes me and how honored that makes me. I always believe that you are a blessing that came into my life, and I love seeing stars in the world and helping them shine brighter. And you are a star that shines so bright. And I am so, so, so incredibly proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm so grateful that you invited me to come here today.
Yeah, of course. So let's get into the Career and Technical Education Center, which you are the ERC manager there. Let's talk a little bit about that program, different things that it offers, because some people in the community might not know about the new wonderful building that you guys have.
Well, let's talk a little bit about it. So CTEC itself, as well as the ROC program that's out on Mount Vernon, provides 38 different career and technical education programs that Mr. Brian Miller supervises. That is high school credit for our high school students to learn about various technical careers, from healthcare down to auto repair and ag, and even tech programs like 3D animation. The program that I have is called the Entrepreneurship Resource Center. And the Entrepreneurship Resource Centers came about because the Kern High School District got a grant from Strong Workforce in California, through the state of California, and we opened these programs I began in March of 2021. And we started serving students in June of 2021. And this specific program actually teaches entrepreneurial mindset as well as other entrepreneurial activities, validation of business ideas for 7th to 12th graders. We're the only program like this throughout the entire county that works with 12 to 17-year-olds. We have 4 different types of courses that I have developed and taught, and am now bringing in additional entrepreneurs to help me because the program is going by leaps and bounds. In the first 16 months of service, we have served 487 distinct students throughout these different curriculum programs, and we held the first ever Youth Entrepreneurship Education Summit in September of this year. And we had 500 students from Kern County come and experience a full day business conference. And we flew in a world-renowned entrepreneur, Gabrielle Jordan, that many of our students studied as our keynote speaker. And so this particular program is something that I am incredibly proud to be a part of, and incredibly grateful to our community, because business professionals in the community are stepping up every day to help us support these young, nascent entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. I know that this year, many of my colleagues have volunteered and helped you. I know you've showed them how to make a business plan, and they have to present the business plan to other entrepreneurs and community leaders here, which is really awesome because they're getting that exposure of like people who are actually doing it. And I think the program's so cool, and the building itself, like I said, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. It has so many different resources. There's, like you said, 38 different programs. I mean, if you're interested in any different topics, they probably have a program there. I was on the website. I mean, construction to baking to marketing to fashion to health, law enforcement, fire. I mean, you name it, you guys have a program, which is really, really awesome.
Let me give one more plug for it right now, because we are in enrollment specifically for those career technical education programs. So you would go to roc.kernhigh.org to apply now. If you have a student currently in a high school within the Kern High School District that's a junior or senior, the application has started for next year. It will close in early March, and they need to work directly with their advisor at their particular high school. So again, that is the specific career and technical education programs that we offer through both locations. The Entrepreneurship Resource Center, that the program that I run, that I'm in charge of, we've actually started our early enrollment. It'll go live this week, and we will begin our courses. We have 5 different courses happening in 2 locations beginning in February. Our courses run about 12 weeks. They are 1 night per week, and they do not offer academic credit. These courses are all students that take these entrepreneurship courses as part of their extracurricular. So one of the things that we talk about is mindset. And what is an entrepreneurial mindset? And this is the foundational knowledge that I bring into the Entrepreneurship Resource Centers. An entrepreneurial mindset is someone that is able to utilize their mind to take a look at a problem and see it as an opportunity, and reflect back upon themselves and realize that they are the one that may have the talent and the skills and the education to solve that problem for others. And that creates value. When we solve problems for others, we create value. In a business scenario, that value we usually see in exchange of money. You put something out into the marketplace that has value for me, I'm going to want to purchase that. And so what happens with this is that our students start to understand that when they are able to create value for others, they validate their value. Right. And so this becomes larger than just opening businesses, although we have a very strong focus on the business mindset, validating business ideas. As you said, our students learning how to actually take a business idea, validate it, and pitch that idea. My advanced students are actually getting involved in customer discovery and taking a look at what we call pivoting or proceed. So they've already validated a business idea, and they get deeper into that idea, more assessment and research. And as you well know, Amanda, the research never stops. And then they start to look at what's it actually going to take to put this business out into the marketplace. And from that original validation of the idea, do I proceed forward in the way that I originally intended, or do I need to pivot and iterate and make a change to this so it creates more value for the customer? And so these are the things that we're working on. And our enrollment process has also started right now. And I plan on filling up these classes like we do every single time.
Awesome. So just summarize a little bit. They have programs that are credits for school, and then they also have extra programs that have extracurricular activities, right?
Only mine.
Oh, yeah, which is the entrepreneurship.
Through the Entrepreneurship Resource Center. Although, just to create a little bit more confusion in this, Mr. Mike Russo does teach small business entrepreneurship, and those are courses for credit. That's part of the 38. But the specific programs that I do are not for credit.
just to clarify just a little bit on that. I mean, I think it's awesome. As we know, I mean, Angel also serves on, we were part of the guidance kind of committee for KITE, trying to get it up and going, which is the Kern Initiative for Talent Entrepreneurship. And I mean, the reason why that program started and, we pulled in resources like Angel is because Kern County is on that list for like top 10 in the nation for starting small businesses. So I think you teaching, these young students that mindset and that ability to create value and to follow through and to read market and see if this is something they can even start is a great process, because the next statistic is a sad one. Even though we start businesses, sustaining them and keeping them, it plummets. The numbers plummet. And I mean, that was the reason for KITE, but also just, I'm sure you're teaching them that, like, do your market strategy. Is this worth, should I be going into that market and penetrating it or not? So I think that's really interesting that you're catching them at a young age so they're able to do these things.
It's super important, and that's true for any entrepreneur. What it really comes down to for an entrepreneur is you starting to figure out, do you want to work that hard? Because you can squeeze any business idea you want into a market. But whether that business idea is actually feasible and viable for you, and that's where I start people with, is how can this idea actually be feasible and viable for you? When you're going out for venture capital, or you're looking for funding from a bank, or you're looking for access to capital, feasibility and viability is assessed in a different way. But you have to be able to understand within yourself from the market, are you able to get a percentage of the market share that you want to get that's going to provide you with the livelihood that this business needs to provide for you within the manner of time that it's going to provide it for you? And that's a misstep that people don't always understand. And it takes time. And as you know, that business and the model is going to have to evolve and change along with how the customer's needs evolve and change. And you will have to do that alongside and with it. And that's where the work comes in. And not everybody's cut out for it. And that's okay. That's why not everybody opens a business. And that's not why all businesses are able to stay sustained. Now, working with our youth, it provides them an opportunity. First of all, it taps so much into their creativity, which we want to do. The other thing that we're seeing as they get into validating the business idea, getting more comfortable with it, their confidence increases, particularly through these pitches, particularly with working with business professionals and the positivity that business professionals and our community advisors bring in and that they bring to one another. And so then they start to get excited about it and they have more energy around this. And then we have to get into the hard work. And in fact, my advanced kids and some of Mike Russo's kids, they just did our first expo. So we were very experiential. So the next piece becomes, how do you experience entrepreneurship? Let's see, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, we had 40 small businesses up in one of the large rooms at CTEC, and hundreds of people showed up to this expo. And there was at least $4,000 in sales. And I know there was more than that, but I know I can sit on that number and know that number to be true. When they do their expo in spring, we're actually going to come back after the expo and we're going to do calculations of total sales expenses and net profit, which I am so excited about. You know how much I love numbers. But for my students to really start to understand now, what did it take to now move that idea? Many of them have worked on this idea for more than a year. And now how do I actualize that idea into reality? How do I interact with potential customers? How do I speak with them? Right. What were the things that worked to create and generate a sale, and what didn't work so well? And so that's also super exciting, because now my students really start to learn what is the work aspect of this in terms of creating success. What does implementation and execution of an idea take?
I think it's interesting when you're talking about, molding them and building the value. I'm sure, because when I was in high school, I'm a social person, but even having to present something in front of the class or the teacher sometimes can be, just speaking out loud your ideas can be complicated. Have you seen, because they're in the entrepreneur, maybe do you see that they're not, or they already have those skills, or they don't have are there those things that you focus on in the program too, like how to, an elevator pitch or something, or do you work on those things too with them?
Well, I can tell you this, it doesn't matter what class they start, whether it's our week-long summer camp, whether it's mindset, whether it's our business validation, whether it's advanced. First night of class, they're standing up and speaking. And in their first time interacting with me or one of their instructors, sure, we've got students that, would rather go outside and eat a bucket of worms than do that, right? But it's one of the most important things we have them do is stand up and start speaking. And what's remarkable, even in just the week-long summer camps, who they are at the beginning of that camp versus who they are by the time we get to Friday afternoon and they're presenting their vision board are different people. They've already gained the confidence. So do I get resistance to it? 100%. Do we get through the resistance? 100%. And yes, as far as working with them specifically on pitching, and there's a 12-week class that works on that. So they are actually I use Business Model Canvas. All the things that I have utilized when I started putting together curriculum for our youth. Where did I go? I went to what I knew. I've been teaching entrepreneurs for more than 15 years and working with adults in more than 15 years. I have brought in the same exact direct curriculum that I work with adults. Do I make some adjustments? Sure. But I'll be honest with you, I don't have to make that many adjustments. These students are using Business Model Canvas. They're using Lean Canvas. We're getting into all of those tools that are utilized to help entrepreneurs assess, help entrepreneurs to be able to become successful. Those are the same exact tools and resources I'm using with the youth. And actually, I've connected one of the most important things to me when I first joined the Kern High School District, because I knew that the conversation nationally around youth entrepreneurship education was getting bigger and bigger. And there's a lot more steam behind it. And so one of the most important things I did first was what I teach. And that was I started doing my research. And so I've actually connected the Kern High School District with an organization called USABI, which is the United States Small Business and Entrepreneurship. It's an association that has academics from all across the world. When we go to the conferences on this, they're actually presenting research papers around entrepreneurship education. I'll be going to their conference in Tallahassee, Florida in January. And I'm actually going to become a teacher trainer for a course that Wharton has just put out, which is an entrepreneurship game. It's an augmented reality game.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you what, one of the hardest things for me with the youth right now is how do I create entrepreneurial experiences for them? Because most of them can't quit school right now and enter their business full time. And then we provide them coaching and consulting for all the things that happen as you own a business. You and I were just talking about this before we went on the air, what you're dealing with right now within your business. So this is going to give me hopefully an opportunity to put them into scenarios so they can learn from scenarios. My point is, in every single course we have and everything we do, I am also attaching us to what's happening in the national conversation. And many times we are the only high school district that's involved at the national conversation and bringing this back so that the way that we are not only teaching our youth, but influencing our youth and how they think about being entrepreneurial. And remember, this goes beyond business. Most of these students are not going to graduate high school and immediately be in their own business full time. A few will. Most of them are going to go to work in our local organizations. I don't care if it's a business. I don't care if it's a school. I don't care if it's a government organization. We want them thinking like this within our business. We want them being intrapreneurial because we also know most folks that grow up in our community stay in our community. And so if I can get them at this age and we can provide them, and not just me, but all of the team and all the groups of people that are working with them, and we get them to be able to understand how to critically think like this, how to problem solve this way, how to truly be innovative, and then know how to implement and execute. That makes me excited about who's going to be showing up and who you get to hire next, Amanda. Who gets to show up.
That's what I'm looking for, critical thinking.
That's exactly
Versus
it.
If you have the certificate or the degree, and nowadays in my interviews, it's like, okay, well, can I ask questions that show critical thinking? Can you work through the problem? Okay, you got it wrong. Show me how you can do it better the next time.
Right.
Because I think that is the future, trying to think through those problems.
So that's definitely what I always have front of mind as well, is it's not about making this easier because they're kids. Because I'm going to tell you right now, they rise to the occasion every single time. I have to keep taking these classes because I have to stay ahead of them for, I've got to keep them. I got to stay sharp.
I mean, like you said you take it to a national level. And I would love to point out something in my notes right here. You said in 2022, 5 local schools sent 75 students to New York for a national competition. 3 out of the top 5 business plan teams in the nations were from your guys' schools. Yeah. Would you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. That's Virtual Enterprise International. So the first shout out I want to give on this is to Dr. Dean McGee. He brought Virtual Enterprise to Kern County over 28 years ago. We are one of the largest high school districts that participates in this national competition in the nation. We, meaning Bakersfield, has hosted the state competition for Virtual Enterprise for more than 25 years, and we will be hosting the state competition on January 26th and 27th at Mechanics Bank. We outgrew CTEC last year. This year, we currently have 11 high schools with 13 teams currently competing. I'm a former state judge. I was a judge for 8 years. We have hundreds of business professionals in the community that come together to help provide judging for this. This is a full long class. It's usually juniors or seniors. It's in specific high schools. And we just held regionals last Friday. So in a week or so, we'll know, hopefully, some of our schools that will be actually participating in the state competition. But the high school teams pick a business and actually write complete business plans. The competition is a year-long competition. And yes, last year we blew it out of the water. We sent 75 kids. Not only that, we had 9 different teams compete nationally. So we also had teams that were competing in the marketing and the finance competition. Centennial High took second in both the marketing and the finance competitions in the nation. Wow. We're talking in the nation. So Bakersfield High was second place in the nation for business plan. Centennial was 4th, and one of the Ridgeview's teams was 5th for business plan competition. It's absolutely one of the most incredible organizations. When I first came to Kern County in the mid-2000s, it was when I first got involved. And for years, I said it was one of my very civic things to do, my volunteer activities to do. Now, how does the ERC and how are we involved with virtual enterprise at this point? Because again, that's a different program than the ERC. But I will say this, one of the things that I noticed when I was a state judge, Bakersfield has consistently sent, particular high schools have consistently qualified for nationals year after year, and that's absolutely incredible. The excellence is amazing. But what I noticed as a judge was we had about 6 other high schools at that time that were competing that were failing miserably. Not because the students weren't trying. It was because they didn't have the same access to resources and opportunity to expertise to help them. And neither did their teachers. And so last year, I talked to Mr. Miller about it, and I met with all the virtual enterprise teachers. And one of the things that I wanted to do to try to address this inequity was to provide every single team an opportunity to have business advisors coach them, provide them a little bit of advising. And that's what we've done. So what I've been able to do through the ERC is I bring in advising, which is all non-sanctioned virtual enterprise international activities. I'm saying that like that on purpose right now. It's a non-sanctioned activities. And advisors come in and actually the students pitch, talk about their businesses. And so now every single school that competes throughout the competition has an opportunity and does receive advising. And our first advising sessions happened in early November this year. And we'll be having our next advising session for the schools that are moving on to state on January 13th. So if anybody out there is interested in spending Friday the 13th of January at CTEC with me, reach out. Amanda will give out my contact information later. And you're welcome to come by and see some of these teams right before they compete for state and help them be excellent.
It's just so cool. I mean, listening to everything, and it's just so amazing. It's like, are you real? I want to kind of pinch you sometimes, like everything that you do. And because we haven't even got to your consulting business yet, right. But it's just so awesome. I feel like, I mean, you mentioned you're not from here. I'm not from here either. And I do feel like it's such a blessing. I know a lot of people have a lot of bad things to kind of say about Bakersfield or Kern County, but from my point of view, the amount of resources, the people who want to help, the volunteers, the nonprofits, the community leaders that are here are just awesome. And the fact that we can provide these resources and we're able to provide those. I mean, if you want it, I think this is the place to be where you can go get it, but you have to want it too. It's that mindset. I want to be a part of this. I want to get it. But I've been so blessed myself to been exposed to so many different community leaders and to be a part of all these organizations and groups that get to help other people. And I think it's so cool because when you're listening, on the podcast, the listeners, or when you're reading your resume, like, is this person real? But it is like I've witnessed you for years now be in all these committees and bring all these things to our community. And it's so awesome to like just see that from my perspective, like from the outside. It comes with sleepless nights. It comes from, having to be that person in the meeting that's like, no, we can do better and having a voice for everybody. And, I appreciate it. And I'm sure a lot of other people in town appreciate it too, Angel.
Well, I'll tell you thank you so much for that, Amanda. But I'll tell you what, a lot of people have a lot of things to say about Kern County and Bakersfield. I sat on a plane next to a guy from Iowa when I flew back from Belize. And I looked at him and I said, so how many times have you been there? And he said, never. And I said, well, you sure have a whole lot to say about my town and my state from ever stepping foot in it. Now, really, we didn't talk anymore for the rest of that plane ride, but that's okay. I see it as part of my mission to put things out there. So keep talking about Bakersfield and Kern County. We're going to give you the good stuff to talk about. And that's my mission every single day. And yes, I'm not from here. I'm from Kentucky originally, and I've lived in 5 states and 10 cities, and I've been in Kern County since 2009, and I'm in my second rodeo here living in Bakersfield, and I actually just celebrated 6 years in my house just this past weekend, and just thought about how blessed that I am to be here. And I wrote the Greater Bakersfield Chamber after I won the beautiful Bakersfield Award. Thank you so much again to my nominators and to everyone that voted for me. It was one of the most magical nights of my life so far. What I wrote about in that article was about my belonging here. And when you grow up moving around to lots of different states and different places, there's positive because I've been exposed to so many different parts of our country, and I've been exposed to many different types of people. And so I find that that helps me to be more open and understanding, and I can relate to different people and different perspectives, and I'm grateful for that. But it makes it really, really hard to ground yourself with roots. And I didn't know necessarily if Bakersfield was going to be the place that I was going to stay. And when I first came here, I had never been here. I didn't know Bakersfield had existed. I'm so sorry, but I sure do now. And I didn't know if it was the place for me. And there was actually many times in many years that I considered leaving, and I attempted to over different times. And it's that joke of like, once you get here that you can't get out. Like it's truly happened. And I don't resist it anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm proud to say that I love living here, and I love being a part of the community. And it was emotional for me to write that article because of the belonging that I feel here. And so I'm naturally a giving person, but this community in itself, what makes this community work, and we all say it all the time, but sometimes I wonder how much we believe it. It is a relationship town, and it's a relationship town like no other. And so what I find is so remarkable is when you are provided an opportunity, like I'm provided this opportunity to work with our youth. And I'm provided this opportunity to create these entrepreneurship resource centers. And then when you find so many people that invest in that same belief, and they will step up and they will give their time and they will say yes, that is the magic of the relationship community. And they don't just say yes once. They keep coming back, and we all keep doing that and showing up. And that is something that I'm so proud to be a part of. And that's what I share about what the magic is to be a part of this community, to not only live here, but belong here.
Wow. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, I was born and raised in Ohio, completely different than here. And I do. It is a sense of pride. It's a sense of, I want to represent, and I want to be a part of it, and I want to grow the community and make it better. This is where I plan to raise my future kids, and I want to have this environment here that is for everybody. So I think it's so awesome. Like I said, again, it's just so cool hearing everything that you've been able to do. I want to pivot a little bit to Apollo coaching and consulting a little bit, and kind of give us, the actual name is Apollo Consultancy Group, Inc. But yes, can you let me kind of give us a rundown of what it is, and then we can kind of go into it a little bit more?
Sure. So Apollo Consultancy Group, Inc. is my strategic management consulting and coaching firm. I sort of left all my full-time gigs in 2018 and decided that I was ready to go back out on my own again. And so what Apollo does is it really works with, most often it works with executives who've been in the game for a while. And people that have been in business or been in their career for a long time know that then when they want to make changes and adjustments in their organization, it starts with them. And the longer that you've been in the game, the harder it is to change yourself. And so consulting, as we all know, is going in and taking an assessment, and you've got to answer the three most important questions of strategy. Where have you been? Where are you now? And where do you want to go? And where you are now and where you want to go, or where you want to be, that gap, that's where your strategic initiatives needs to show up. And that's where the change needs to happen. Like I said, folks that have been in this game for a long time know that the change happens with them. And what they know even more fully is that they are the reason that the change has not happened. And so it becomes hard, particularly as you become more successful, it becomes difficult to be able to create those behavior changes within yourself. And the other part is it taps into a level of vulnerability that's difficult to share. And so one of the things that you'll notice on my website is that I don't have a list of a whole lot of companies that I've worked with. And that's the reason for that. It's because there's discretion around it. Coaching has to do with fundamentally changing how you perceive yourself, the environment, and what it is you're going to be willing to do about it. And so a lot of that work taps into vulnerability, and it looks at the person holistically, because at this point, the professional and the personal are ingrained with one another. What you do is who you are. And that's not always something that we want to talk about with others. And so that's something that I dig in deep with these CEOs. We usually deal with some difficult topics. We deal with things that they don't necessarily even want to face themselves at times, but they know that to take it to the next level, or particularly to create the succession and the legacy that they want to leave, how they want to do that is different than how they're showing up in their life right now. And when you have been very, very successful, that's super, super scary. And the last thing you want to do is talk to anyone about the fact that that scares you a lot. And so I lean in with them, and I'm able to sit with them, and I have a strong enough, not only personality, but enough depth and breadth and knowledge within the work also that I've done, that I can meet them where they are and help them get to where they want to be in a way that explores that stuff that we need to get into and we need to make some changes to, so that they're able to make the fundamental changes that they want to make with themselves, that then it also shows up within their business. And usually what happens once I've been working with the CEO for a period of time, more often than not, then I get brought in for more training stuff within the organization. And so, in fact, I just wrapped up a course with a particular organization I work with all of their sales managers. We actually did 2 different trainings this year. One in the spring, we did my Leadership and Management Institute that I do had all their sales managers and all their executives in that. And then we followed up in the fall with a course that I designed really specifically for them called Think Like an Owner, creating the business case for investment, because this particular company is considering a large expansion. And so what the owner decided to do is to bring back in all the executives and all the sales managers, and we taught them how to think like an owner. So they all actually had to pitch to the CEO if they were making the business investment decision of how this company was going to grow into another location. How would they do it? And why would they do it?
So awesome. Because a lot of business owners don't want to hear the opinions, and that's pretty cool that they allowed that to happen. That's awesome.
This particular CEO is a remarkable guy. That was definitely something that I brought to the attention of his team more than once, because literally with the way we taught them how to think the way that he thinks. It's not like he goes to his board of directors and just walks in and says, give me 20 million. It's not that he doesn't pitch to them. It's not that he doesn't make the case for business. But you know what the hard part is for him after this? Nobody gets to go back up to boss anymore and say, hey, I got a great idea. Now they have to validate it and actually pitch it to him. So that makes the adjustment. But I love the work that I do with Apollo. I love the people that I get to work with. It keeps me sharp. You know, it's really important to me. It's a different type of work that I do.
Is it just CEOs? Because it's sounding like very large companies. Do you work with medium size or small clients, even trying to strategize and grow?
I do, and I'm willing to do that. Sometimes price point can become an issue.
It's true.
Sometimes price point, and I'm willing to work on it a little bit, but I'll be honest, there's a lot of organizations in town, and I'm connected to a lot of those organizations that can meet people more at their price point at that point, because this is in depth. So I'm willing to work with people, but there's also a reason that I have Apollo doing what Apollo's doing, and who I choose to work with, and how I choose to do this work with them.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So walk me through, so you have a consultation, you kind of figure out, their pain points, and then you walk them through and you come up with a plan how to fix the pain points?
Well, what really happens is that we talk about why they're here. Apollo, when you think about the name of Apollo, a couple different reasons of how I came up with the name, but, Apollo we go the Greek way, it has to do with the sun god. Right. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things, and you see my arrow that's on there, aim, commit, grow. And as part of my tag, but one of my mottos is that to experience significant change, you must change significantly. And that's a quote from me. And that's really what that's about. is that they're coming because they know that something needs to significantly change. It's not all unicorns and rainbows when they come see me. And it doesn't mean that it's 100% dismal either, but there's something inside this person that isn't sitting right within them anymore. And so what we've got to start to work on is that. And most people, it takes about 6 months of twice a month consultation to really start to pull out some of the deeper stuff that's going on, that's creating the resistance, and that's stopping the particular individual from experiencing life, both professionally and personally, the way they want to experience it. And so it's not as much of a prescription that's written like an assessment, like a consultation. Now that comes in too, because the business piece comes in. But the personal piece of that, of the coaching piece of how do I make the changes from within who I am? How am I going to show up different? Because I'm super comfortable showing up the way I show up. And guess what? The way I've shown up has worked for me because I've got all the money. I've got all of the prestige. I've got all the status. I am the boss. So why am I not happy? That's a little bit different. Or why am I not fulfilled? It might not even be happy. It's not even the right word. Why am I not feeling fulfilled anymore? And that gets deep. And it takes some time. And it takes time to build that trust. But usually once they've gotten that point to me and we've spent some time, they've realized that I am a person. Well, they don't sign a contract unless they realize that I'm going to be the person that they're going to trust to do this. And then it becomes my job to help reflect back to them so that they're able to open to the things that is preventing them from experiencing the greatest version of their grandest vision. And that's what we're on track to do.
That's so cool. I mean, that's really cool too on the businesses that do hire you, because that's really hard to be vulnerable and to look yourself in the mirror and say that I might be the problem. I need to work on some of these things. And I mean, they do say the greatest leaders have the ability to do that, to be vulnerable and to say, like, I take some ownership and try to move past their faults. And I think it's really cool that you're able to be a part of that with them, but also that they're taking that steps to hire you to do that. Sometimes that's what is needed.
Everything that's important to us comes from the heart. The business idea comes from the heart. A vision, a new goal comes from your heart. The heart is vulnerability. Anything creative, anything new that we put out into the world, we put passion into that. We put intention into that. We put love into that. You know, Queen Elizabeth, who just passed away, had a great quote. Grief is the price we pay for love. We don't get to experience those love-based things, those things that turn us on so much that we feel lit up. We feel that people can feel us glowing and lit up without engaging our heart.
Yeah.
Well, when we're not engaged to that part anymore, that lack of fulfillment, the lack of peace, the lack of contentment, the heartbreak we feel. And that's the last things that we want to talk about. And when you're someone that is successful and from the outside is successful everywhere, you particularly don't want to talk about that because it's not something you want to even think about or feel about yourself. And so that's really the place where I meet them. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud that it means a lot to me that people can sit down with me at that point. And it has to do with transition. We don't always know which direction to go. And the more successful you are, I think it's harder to make those transitions because we are the ones that come up with the answers. We're the ones that answer and solve the problems for everyone else. Mm-hmm. You know, we're the ones that rise above. And that might have worked for us for the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years. But now all of a sudden, it's just not working the same anymore. And that's that piece of that. And that's really where Apollo leans into that. And me with Apollo leans into that. And as I say, we'll take you from that dark place and get you back to the light.
That's great. That's so wonderful. You're such an amazing resource to entrepreneurs, children, just the community. It's really awesome. I think we're getting to the part where everyone loves the most, the rapid fire questions. If you could go back in time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell her?
Believe in yourself. Lose the scarcity mindset sooner. Do enough, there is enough, and you are enough.
Wow, chills. I definitely wish I could tell myself that too as well. I think all of us need to hear that. What is the best advice you've ever received from somebody?
I received this advice from my father, and I was 16 years old. It was the first time right before I ever managed, the first thing I ever managed. I managed a snack bar in the summers for this place called Rollingwood Racket Club. And he said, Angel, number one, you start managing people, managing things, managing situations. Never forget where you came from and never ask somebody to do something that you're not willing to do yourself.
That is excellent advice. I believe that one of my managers when I was growing up told me the same thing. Don't expect somebody to do something that you're not willing to do. That's great advice.
And don't ever forget where you came from. Mm-hmm. I've always worked my way up in different things. I've always started at the bottom. I have had to restart my life so many times, and that's another thing to always remember. It's never too late to start your life over. And I've done it more than once, and I've always kept that with me, and thank you, Dad. And that's how you also get people who are loyal with you, people who are committed with you, because you treat them the way that you want to be treated, but that, not forgetting where you came from and not asking people to do something that you're not willing to do means that you're starting off with common basic decency and respect. And if we start there, we can always build from there.
Yes. Last question here. What is a quote you live by?
One I wrote: to experience significant change, you must change significantly.
Wow. Beautiful. Well, again, thank you so very much. It was a pleasure. Again, I was super excited that you agreed to want to come onto the podcast with me. You seriously do so much for Kern County. I don't even think people even realize how much you do. And I can't wait for a couple more years when I get to interview a lot of your students for positions at my firm.
Well, I'm getting them ready for you. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I so appreciate you, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
The show has been brought to you by the Law Office of Kyle Jones, Troy Burton with the Lynn Company, CPA John Duffield, Scott Hansen Real Estate Lender, broker and investor, Dave Plivlich, President and CEO of the Marcom Group and MarcomBranding.com, and Amanda DiGiacomo, President of Atlas Financial Solutions. You've been listening to the Our 2 Cents podcast. Check out the show notes for links and more information about the show. Also visit our website at our2centspodcast.com or catch us on Instagram at Our 2 Cents Podcasts. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share with others.